ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ವಾ? ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ ಓದ್ಬೇಕಿತ್ತ?
ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
ಆಯ್ತು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ.
ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
ಸರಿ, ಕಾಸ್ಮಾಲಜಿ. The world is in existence from time immemorial, and the correct date is not yet to be traced out, although certain persons have attempted to fix down the Srishti era. The only thing before creation was divinity in its pure and original state, devoid of all solidity and grossness, and every object was in its essence, was merged in it. Before the creation came into effect, there was only the latent motion around the center, and adjacent to it and in it was present the idea of creation. ಸೊ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಇದೆ, ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಸುತ್ತ ಲೇಟೆಂಟ್ ಮೋಷನ್ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಲೇಟೆಂಟ್ ಮೋಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ idea of the creation is embedded. So these are the three things originally. ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. There is the center, there is the latent motion around the center, and the idea of creation is embedded in that latent motion adjacent to it. You may call it the first thought or the initial knowledge with avidya. It may also be called as a motion, kshobh, vibration, force, understanding, anything. It was the ultimate cause of creation of everything else necessary for it. So ಈ ಮೂರನ್ನ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. There is a center. Just near the center is the latent motion, and in that latent motion is embedded the idea of creation. When the time for creation came, the idea which was hidden or sleeping in the latent motion matured and churned up the whole motion and created force or power which rushed out. The subtlest particles got heated up. Thus the covering set in from the very first day. So coverings ಯಾವಾಗಿಂದ ಶುರು ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ from the very first day of the creation the covering started forming. Thus the covering set in from the very first day. By the effect of the continuous heating, the particles began to come into motion. Its intensity went on increasing and adding wheel after wheels to it. In other words, what is the reason for more and more wheels to be formed? Andre, it is the heat. The more the heat in the system, the more the wheels are formed. The less the heat in the system, lesser the heats are formed. Grossness began to develop by the effect of the growing intensity and vibrations. The action of every particle started and went on multiplying till reality itself was wrapped up within, like a silkworm in a cocoon. ಇದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸಿ. But to just simplify it, I'll just say these few things. When the time for creation came, the thought which was embedded for creation actually became mature. When it became mature, it started creating more force or power which started gushing out. Remember latent motion itself. Latent motion in the idea of creation udbhava ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ದಂಗೆ. It's very simple if you want to kind of just look at it. The latent motion is just like the hidden power of the flow of the water. Look at a still lake. In a still lake, there's nothing. But the water itself has a hidden power of movement. It has a potential movement, potential energy, so to say. Now, when anything drops into the water, it could be anything. It creates a ripple out of that potential energy that the water contains. So the motion is not visible, it is there, but it is not visible. The latent motion, that's why it's called as the latent motion. It is not visible. But when the idea of the creation drops into it, then the motion becomes visible, like the waves that come out from the center of a lake. When something falls into the center of the lake, the waves start gushing out in all directions. Now, where is the power for that particular waves which are formed, the ripples which are formed? The power is inherently present in the water itself. It is not coming from outside. It is already present inside. But it's just that when something drops, then that latent motion actually manifests as power outside in the form of the waves or the ripples that you see. ಇಷ್ಟ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ವಾಟರ್ ಇದೆ, ವಾಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. That is how the creation was before. So there is the center and there is this latent motion. The idea of creation is embedded there. When the idea of creation matures to a certain extent, it creates motion from the latent motion is very, very invisible. But from that, when the time for creation comes, the force rushes out, which is in the form of power. Now that power starts heating up the material which is around. Now, what is the material which is around? All the subtle particles, which are in the subtlest state of existence. When it starts heating up the material, wheel and wheel is formed, the coverings are formed. From the very first day, because of the heat, the coverings are formed. When the coverings become more and more, they all coalesce together to form a grossness. When the grossness becomes so uh, persistent or too much, it covers up the reality in all directions, which is what the cocoon is like for the silkworm. So the cocoon covers the silkworm in all directions. Likewise, the grossness of the wheels covers up the reality in all directions. That is what happens. Now, you might wonder, where is this idea of creation coming from? What is the basis for that? All these things we will read in one other chapter. So, if you can just remember these few things for the time being, I think you have some substratum to go with as far as creation is concerned. Now, Vivekananda says that there is always evolution and then involution. Evolution and involution, and that is eternal. It is always going on. There is evolution and involution. ಆಯ್ತಾ? So ಗೋಪಾಲ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮತ್ತು ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಶೇವ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡಿದಾನೆ, ಯಂಗ್ ಬಾಯ್ ತರ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾನೆ. So evolution, evolution and involution, and that is eternal in nature. Okay, but the center itself is not impacted by this either evolution or involution. The center stays as it is. Now the question comes, what is the center? Where is the center? Okay, now this is a question that we need to ponder about. Now, for example, if I were to just give an example of there is a fire and there are sparks. Okay, now the spark contains the same qualities as the fire. There is no difference between the spark and the fire. The spark also has brightness, the fire also has brightness. The spark also has heat, the fire also has heat. No difference between the two. However, the spark can get covered up by ash, which the fire cannot get covered up by the ash. That's the only difference. Okay. Now, if the ash is removed and the spark is blown with air, what is going to happen to the spark? It's going to get converted into fire again. In other words, every spark has present, the fire is present in every spark inherently. Does it make sense? So every spark is nothing but a fire in the miniaturized form. However, the spark can be converted back to fire under appropriate set of circumstances. Right? Now, would you want to call the fire as the center or the fire which is inherent in the spark as the center? Which is the center? If you say fire is the center, every spark is a potential fire. Does it make sense? If the fire is the center, original center, and all the sparks have come out, there are innumerable sparks. Now, if the spark is going to get converted into fire under appropriate set of circumstances, where is the center? Is the original center the center, or every spark is a potential center?
Actually, every spark is a potential center.
Every spark is a potential center. That's exactly how it is. So if you just look at the original fire as the supreme soul, and the sparks as the soul which is born from them, every soul can potentially be a manifestation of the supreme soul only. Like every spark can get converted into fire under appropriate set of circumstance. Every soul can actually manifest the full force of the Supreme Soul under appropriate set of circumstances. Does it make sense? Now, go back to the original question which we asked. Where is the center?
Inherently present.
Sorry?
Inherently present everywhere.
Where? If you want to put the question where, it can be anywhere in any spark. Does it make sense? It can be there in any spark. It is not like the center is somewhere there and we have to go there. No. It's a question of getting the spark converted into the fire. That's all. When the spark gets converted into the fire, that itself becomes the center. ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಯಾಕೆ ಚಿಂತೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ? ಏನು ಆಸಿಫ್ ತಲೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಏನೋ ಬೆಟ್ಟ ಬಿದ್ದಂಗೆ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ? ಅಲ್ಲ, ನೀವು ಯಾವ್ದನ್ನು ಒಲೆ ಊದಿ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಇದೇ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜನರೇಷನ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. ಒಲೆ ಊದಿದ್ರಲ್ವಾ ಯಾವತ್ತ ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ? ಹಾ, ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಸಣ್ಣ ವಯಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ದಿನ ಒಲೆ ಊದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಸೊ ನಮಗೆ ಸ್ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಏನ್ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಆಗೋದೇನು ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿಷಯ ಅಲ್ಲ. ನೀವು ಸ್ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರಲ್ವಾ? ಸ್ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ನೋಡೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಫೈರ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು. ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಫೈರ್ ಆಗೋದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಯಾವ್ದು ಗೊತ್ತಾ? ಯಾವ್ದು ಹೇಳು? ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಒಲೆ ಹತ್ತಿಸ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ,
ಲೈಟರ್.
ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದ್ ಸ್ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ, ಅದು ಫೈರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. But you are not used to the traditional system. The traditional system actually gives you a very good picture of spirituality. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನಲ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಏನಾಗಿರೋದು, ಆ ಒಲೆ ಹತ್ತಿರ್ತಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಒಲೆ ಹತ್ತಿದ್ದಾಗ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಉಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋದು. ನಾವು ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ ಹಂಡೆ ಕಾಯಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ನೀರು. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ? ಆ ಸ್ಪಾರ್ಕಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಪೈಪ್ ಬರೋದು, ಕೊಳವೆ ಕೊಳವೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಗಾಳಿ ಊದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಆಯ್ತು. ಫೈರ್ ಈಸ್ ಕೋಡೆಡ್ ವಿತ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತೆ. ಯಾವ ಫೈರ್ ಕೋಡೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ? ಆ ಫೈರ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಬಿಸಿನೇ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಆಯ್ತು. ನಾ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರೋದು ನಿಜವಾದ ಬೆಂಕಿ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? 0, 1 ಅಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಊಫ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಳವೆ ಊದ್ದಾಗ ಏನಾಗೋದು? ನಾಳೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಪ್ಪನ ಹೋಗಿ ಕೇಳ್ರಿ, ಎಲ್ರು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಪ್ಪಂದ್ರ ಹೋಗಿ ಕೇಳ್ರಿ, ಅವ್ರು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ, ಮುಂಚೆ ಹಿಂಗ್ ಒಲೆ ಹತ್ತಿದ್ರಿ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ.
ಊದ್ದಾಗ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೆಂಕಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹಿಂಗ್ ಗಾಳಿ ಬರುತ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಇನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಬರ್ತಿತ್ತು.
ಈಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಕಾಡುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಡ್ಗಿಚ್ಚು ಅಂತ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕೇಳಿದಿರಾ? ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಫೈರ್ಸ್. ಕಾಡ್ಗಿಚ್ಚು ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟಲಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಎರಡು ವಸ್ತುಗಳು ಘರ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಸಡನ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು ಕಿಡಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂಡರ್ ಡ್ರೈ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ ಎ ಫೈರ್. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಲಿಟ್, ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್. ಸರಿನಾ? ಎನಿವೆ, ಈ ಒಲೆ ಹತ್ತದಾಗ ಏನಾಗೋದು, ಸಪೋಸ್ ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ, ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಆರೋಗೋದು. ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಆರೋದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ನೀವು ಒಂಚೂರು ಬೆಂಕಿ ಕಿಡಿ ಇರೋದು. ನೀವು ಇವಾಗ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಮ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಗೊತ್ತಾ? ಗಣಪತಿ ಹೋಮ, ಆ ಹೋಮ, ಈ ಹೋಮ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ. ಈಗಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಒಣಗಿಸಿರೋ ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ತರದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವನು ಅದರಲ್ಲೂ ಸೋಂಬೇರ್ತಾನೆ. ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆನ ಒಣಗಿಸೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಒಣಗಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಹೊಗೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ. ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಒಣಗಿಸದೇ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರಿನ ಅಂಶ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ವಾ, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಹೊಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸರಿನಾ? ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಲೋ ಟು ಬರ್ನ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ವಾಟರ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್. ಸರಿನಾ? ಆ ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಏನು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕೆಲವು ಸತಿ ಅವನು ತುಪ್ಪ ಹಾಕೋದನ್ನ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಗಾಳಿ ಊದೋದನ್ನ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ, ತುಪ್ಪ ಹಾಕೋದು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಅದು ಬೆಂಕಿ ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಬೆಂಕಿ ಆರೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬರೀ ಹೊಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಹೊಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಕಿಡಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಆಯ್ತು. ಸರಿನಾ? ಈಗ ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ನಾವು ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ ಬೆಂಕಿನ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರಜ್ವಲಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಕಿಡಿಗೆ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಊದ್ತೀವಿ, ಗಾಳಿ ಊದ್ತೀವಿ. ನೋಡಿದಾರ ಪೂಜಾರೆಲ್ಲ ಊದ್ತಾರೆ ಗಾಳಿ. ಗಾಳಿ ಊತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಕಿಡಿ ಇರೋದು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅವ ಎರಡು ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಒಂದು ಗಾಳಿ ಊದ್ತಾನೆ, ಎರಡನೇದು ತುಪ್ಪ ಹಾಕ್ತಾನೆ. ಸರಿ? ಎರಡೂ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಸಡನ್ ಆಗಿ ಅದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಏನು ಆಹುತಿ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು ಆಹುತಿ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ನೋಡಿಲ್ದೇ ಇದ್ರೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಹೋಮಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ಯಜ್ಞಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಬೆಂಕಿ ಕಿಡಿ ಹೆಂಗಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕಿಡಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಹೆಂಗಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಬೆಂಕಿನೇ ಕಿಡಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕಿಡಿನೇ ವಾಪಸ್ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಎನಿ ಸೋಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ದ ಸೆಂಟರ್. ದ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಈಸ್ ಸಚ್ ದಟ್ ದ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಈಸ್ everywhere. The circumference of the circle, the center of the circle is everywhere. The circumference of the circle is nowhere to be seen. It's at infinity ಅಂತ. If the circumference of the circle is at infinity, anybody, any living being in this entire cosmos can be the center. Does it make sense? Think of two things. One is the circle. The circumference of the circle is at infinity. If the circumference of the circle is infinity, anybody in the circle can be the center. Any soul can be the center. It hardly matters. That's exactly what happens as far as spiritual giants are concerned. So they keep coming up here, they come up there, they keep on coming here, one part of India, other part of India, other part of the world, again other part of India, something. So a soul keeps manifesting as this, the supreme soul, or the power of the supreme soul manifests in a particular soul randomly at different points of time. That is the divinity. Now Babaji calls it as total divinization of the from the center. Total divinization is when the spark loses its existence as a spark. If the spark has to become the fire, it has to lose its existence as the spark. Only then it can become the fire. The spark cannot say that I want to be the spark, but I also want to be the fire. You cannot have two. Either you can be the fire or you can be the spark. You cannot be both at the same time. Does it make sense? So, if you want to become a master, like you have to lose your individuality. The spark is the individuality. When the spark gets converted into fire, it loses its individuality. It now becomes more universal. Otherwise, the spark was very limited. Gradually, the fire becomes more and more unlimited. It spreads. The spark does not have the capacity to spread, but the fire has the capacity to spread. Does it make sense? The spark has limited consciousness. The fire has unlimited consciousness. It can spread unlimitedly in all directions. The spark cannot do so. Gopal Krishna was talking about expansion of the consciousness. The expansion of the consciousness is when the spark is gradually getting converted into fire. Then you start expanding in consciousness. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಒಬ್ಬರು ಆಕಾಶ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಒಬ್ಬರು ತಲೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಏನೋ ಬದಲಿಗೆ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ನನ್ನ ಕಡೆ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಹಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಅಯನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಷನ್ ನೋಡ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಂಗೆ ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ನೀವು ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಪಾಪ.
ಗುರುಪ್ರಸಾದ್ ಎಸ್ ಸರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಪ್ರಿಯಾ ಅವರು ಕ್ವೈಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಮೌನ ವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. No, see, I want you to understand this analogy. I gave you two analogies. A still lake, something falls in the still lake, it creates ripples. Now, what is the reason for the ripples? The reason for the ripples is the inherent energy that's already present in the water. If the water does not have that energy, there is no question of creation of the ripples. Does it make sense?
Uncle, how do you differentiate latent motion versus dormancy?
Latent motion versus
Dormancy.
They are very similar. You cannot say that they are the same. They are very similar. See, I'm just trying to give you a very physical example. Don't take it as a very concrete example. I'm just trying to only give you something which you can relate to. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to get this idea of creation, how the creation started. If you understand this, the original lake was perfectly in balance. What is the original condition before creation? Perfect balance, perfect calmness, perfect balance. So that you can actually compare to a still lake. Okay. Now, from that still lake, when the idea of creation falls into that still lake, it creates ripples. The energy for that is inherently present already in the uh, whatever material which was there earlier. If reality was the material which was present earlier, the real substance, if you want to call it as a real substance, for the sake of rather than water, you can just take it as real substance. When the idea of creation matures, it actually forces the energy to start going outside. That's exactly what happens when our mind starts allowing the energies to start flowing outside in the outward direction. The mind energy going outward direction is creation. The mind energy going in the inward direction is involution. This is evolution, this is involution. That is all that we are doing. That was the original state as well. This is in the miniaturized form. The same thing happened in the macrocosm. What is happening in the microcosm, which is in the miniaturized form, is exactly what is happening in the macrocosm. So, when the direction of the movement is clockwise, there is creation. When the direction of the movement is anti-clockwise, there is involution. There is pralaya. Okay. Now, since we are kind of miniaturized form in a different dimension, now if you look at it from the infinite dimension, Babuji is talking about clockwise movement and anti-clockwise movement. But if you look at it from the perspective of individual, you can just say the direction of the mind going out, attention of the mind going out, attention of the mind going in. That's all. When the attention of the mind goes out, there is scope for creation. When the attention of the mind goes in, there is no creation whatsoever. There is scope for evolution, involution. ಸೊ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸಿ. ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಏನೇನೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ 3 ಐಡಿಯಾಸ್, ಇದನ್ನ ಪಾಂಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. Idea of the creation goes on, the creation continues as long as there is a clockwise direction of the movement. Clockwise direction ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ, ಹಿಂಗ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. That's the journey of the movement. It's coming out like this. Now, when we talk about the attention of the mind going out, we don't look at it in a clockwise direction like this. We just feel that it's a straight line. So when I'm looking at you in the computer, you feel that I'm actually looking at you straight. Now you do not look at the possibility of the motion like this and coming and hitting. That's exactly what Babuji is talking about. When we actually pay attention outwards, we are actually paying attention in the form of a clockwise direction, clockwise movement, not in a straight line. As long as there is a clockwise movement of that particular direction, we say that there is creation. Now, if you want to go towards pralaya, then all that you have to do is rather than create that clockwise direction, you start doing the anti-clockwise direction, you start going in. Now, obviously, we need to become more and more sensitive to these possibilities. Now, why did I mention this particular movement, clockwise versus anti-clockwise? Somehow these things will be relevant when you become preceptors. ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ತಲೆ ಚಿಟ್ಟು ಹಿಡಿದಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಅವನಿನ್ನು ಹುಬ್ಬಿಂಗ್ ಗಂಟು ಹಾಕಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂಚೂರು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಎಂಥದ್ದು ಕಗ್ಗಂಟು
I was
ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
thinking when you said anti-clockwise, we go inside. So in spirituality, we go inside, right?
That's why in spirituality, we actually go away from creation to what was there originally.
So we are going towards the our creation.
Towards our own creation, where we came from, to go beyond that. As of now, we are all entrapped in our own creation, and that is what Babuji is talking about as the cocoon, which is covering the silkworm. So we are trapped in our own creation. Why are we trapped in our own creation? Because we are sending our attention outwards in a clockwise direction. Now, if you want to get out of this particular situation, you have to send your attention inwards in the anti-clockwise direction. Then you actually start putting brake to creation. ಈಗ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಗಂಟುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಲಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋಣ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇವನು ಇವತ್ತು ಧೀರಜ್ ತಲೆನೇ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾರ ಕ್ಲಾಕ್ ವೈಸ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ಆಗಲಿ, ಆಂಟಿ ಕ್ಲಾಕ್ ವೈಸ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ಹೋಗಿ ನಾನು ಅಯ್ಯನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಕೂತಿರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ. So 3 things I've told you. One is about the example of a still lake. Second example is about the relationship between the fire and the spark. And the third example is about the clockwise direction and anti-clockwise direction. So this will come later on in this chapter also. Now, all these 3 ideas are very, very important as far as the creation is concerned. The other example that is given is like that of a flower pot. You know, the flower pot, the tip, you just burn the tip and then the energy just gushes out through the narrow hole at the top of the flower pot. Now, the tip that is there is the idea of the creation. The batti ideyalla, at the top of the flower pot, that speck which is lightable is the idea of the creation. So, when you light the idea of the creation, whatever is inherently present within the flower pot, it just gushes out. When it gushes out, the central stream comes out with full force. Nodidya? And then there is a peripheral stream which comes out with lesser force. Can you make sense of it? Flower pot ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೊಡೆದಿದ್ದಾರಲ್ವಾ? ಗೋಪಾಲ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಪಾಟ್ ಹೊಡೆದಿದ್ದೇನೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ಬರೀ ಸುಸೂರ್ ಬತ್ತಿ ಹೊಡಿತೀಯ? So flower pot ಹೊಡೆದಿದ್ರೆ the central stream which comes out ಅಲ್ಲ, that is the master cell and we belong to the master cell. It comes out with full force. That thing which is coming at the periphery has a lesser force. ಇದೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡಿದಿರಲ್ವಾ? Only the central stream is going to the top, just like that. And then the peripheral things, there are multiple layers of peripheral things that comes out. None of them actually go to the top. But they're also there to the side. So what you actually enjoy in a flower pot is this whole gamut of, it's almost like blooming like a flower. Now this entire gamut of this blooming like a flower, which is a manifestation of the flower pot being lit, was inherently present in the flower pot, which did not appear to have any of these things. When the time for creation came, this inherently small thing just manifested as a very big thing. Does it make sense? Now, if somebody were to say that this entire flower pot that you were seeing right in front of your eyes was present in that small flower pot that you had in mind, people might not believe. But it's inherently present. Every one of us know about it. So take another example. If you take a banyan tree, the entire banyan tree is there in a subtle form in that seed, one seed. Now, if you actually try to open the seed, you will not see the banyan tree there. Right? Nor will you see any of the leaves, nor the root, nor the trunk. Nothing of that kind. All that you will see is the essence of that seed which is present in the essence of the banyan tree which is present in the seed, which will eventually manifest as all other things in due course of time. Does it make sense? But if you actually look for the banyan tree within the seed, you will not see anything. Now then, if you were to ask the question, what is the origin of the banyan tree? What will your answer be? If you just say it is the seed, the answer will be partly correct. It's not fully correct. The seed can retain the structure and retain the life. The seed can retain the structure but also become dead. So if that were to be the case, so one is a dead seed, the other one is a seed which is alive. What is the difference between the two? They look similar. What is the
The inner
difference?
potential,
The inner essence that it contains. A live seed has that inner essence. A dead seed does not have that inner essence. So, in other words, if somebody were to ask what is the origin of the banyan tree, if you say seed, that's going to be only partly correct. You have to say the essence of the banyan tree which is present in the particular seed. It is the essence which actually manifests as the big tree. Now, if you were to take the essence as the root, then the essence that is there in the seed and the essence that is there in the tree, both are the same. There is no difference whatsoever. Essence is the same. It is just the manifestation which is different. In one, it is manifesting as seed. In the other, it is manifesting as tree. And Priya sister has turned off the video to just go and check the banyan tree and come back. I thought Priya sister has gone to just check the banyan tree next to the PG there. Now, this is exactly what is the example given in the Upanishads, where this Mahavakya in the Upanishad, Tat Tvam Asi, Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that. In other words, the essence which is there in the seed is essentially the essence which is there in the tree also. The essence which is there in the original reality is the essence that we carry also. There is no difference as far as the essence is concerned. The essence of God and essence of us, both are one and the same. ಇವತ್ತು ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಎವ್ರಿ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಥಾಟ್. ಇದೇನೇನೋ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಹಂಗಾಗಿದೆ ಹಿಂಗಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ.
ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ.
ಎಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಇವಾಗ, ದ ಎಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ಡ್. ವಾಟ್ ಹಸ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ಡ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಫಾರ್ಮ್. In every life, the essence remains the same. In every life, we take on a different form. Why do we take the different form? In order to realize that our essence and God's essence is the same. That's all you are trying to do. Just to solve this very simple problem of our essence and God's essence being the same and experienced as such, we have taken n number of forms. And what was the original mistake that we did? We directed the attention outwards. If we had directed the attention inwards in the first life or the second life, our journey would have been completed then and there. We would not have fallen down into this particular trap where we now give more importance to the form than the essence. We have forgotten the essence. We only give importance to the form. That's all that is happening.
So in the heart region, uncle, it's more about letting go of the form. Mind region is going behind the essence, and 11, 12, and 13 is uh, beyond. Right?
Once you go into the central region, that is when you actually catch your essence. We have developed two structures beyond the essence. Our original essence is the soul. That is the essence. In essence, the soul and the supreme soul are the same. Like the fire and the spark is the same. There is no difference in essence. But we have developed two outer covering beyond this essence. The first covering is the mind. The second covering is the body. Now, when we start utilizing the body and the mind in the external direction in this world, we develop a third covering, which is the samskaras. Originally, the samskaras were not there. Originally, all that was there was the fire was there and the spark was there. That's all it is. Both are in essence the same. Now, the spark had to realize that it was originally fire in nature. But the spark cannot realize that it was originally fire in nature without the help of something. So the fire gave the body and the mind to the spark to help it realize that it was the fire. God Himself gave the body and the mind so that we can actually go back to our original relationship with God. That's all. Essentially, your son or your friends are going out to a particular, say, hiking. Now, you don't want your friend to get lost. So, what do? You give all the things necessary for their journey to safely go up the hiking and come back home safely. So you give the map, you give the eatables, whatever is necessary for that entire safe journey, you give all the things necessary. The soul started thinking that it is separate and different from the God or the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul thought, Array, this fellow is going all over, let me help him come back to track. So it packs everything that is necessary for the soul to go around the creation. It creates the creation. It gives the necessary ingredients for the soul to come into creation and help in realizing its original state. That is what God does. He creates the creation also. He gives all the things necessary for the soul to utilize the creation to go back to God. Everything is done necessary. But what does the soul do? The soul starts enjoying the creation itself rather than use the creation to go back to its original condition. Does it make sense? This is like our Gavaskar focusing more on trying to hit a century, losing the bigger picture of India winning the match.
Actually, I was at one point of time, I was thinking to ask you this question. When the entire creation is saved, when everyone came for the first time, so then everyone should be saved. Then how these all samskaras formed and how everyone fall into this trap? But yeah,
It's
you
like
answered
you
that.
assuming that everybody who came into the nursery school for the first time, everyone is the same. How can everyone be the same? You tell me that.
Isn't that the whole game of probability? Like, say there are 100 souls that came out. One will immediately turn backwards. One will turn backwards in 2 steps.
Exactly.
Then the next one will
See,
go.
that entire freedom is there. When do you want to turn backwards? When do you want to turn inwards? Backwards means inwards. So you can spend a number of time outwards in the outward direction. So some souls chose to turn inwards pretty fast. So they realized the God pretty early in their journey. There are many souls who took time to actually turn inwards. And there are some souls which took turns to turn inwards also, outwards also, inwards also, outwards also. So they were kind of playing this game around with God. So remember, the descent does not happen simultaneously for all in equal form. The descent happens according to the directional movement of the mind. Now, the first question comes, what happened when the first life came? The first time life manifested. When the first time, when we took on the human form, how are we like in terms of our relationship with God? Can anybody guess? The first time human body was taken, or human life form was taken. Not this particular body, human life form was taken.
It was fully
It
realized.
should be, yeah, it should be in align or in line with the source.
Correct. It will be in line with the source, as pure and as simple as the source is. Except that the source does not have a form, this has a form. That's all. There's virtually no difference between the two. However, when that separation occurred, this form started thinking that it is separate from this particular thing. Now look at these two things. In essence, both are the same. One is without a form, one is with a form. That being the case, the one with the form thinks it is separate and different from the one without the form. So there is this idea of separation just at the level of the form. In essence, it's the same, but in the form, it is different. The analogy given in Upanishad is that the difference between gold and jewelry. All jewelry are essentially gold only. However, when the gold takes on different forms, you give it different names. But in essence, all are gold only. Does it make sense? Likewise, in essence, all of us are the same, the original essence. But since we have taken different forms, we are given different names based on the form which is taken. Now, that's the simplest way of looking at it. Now, this form contains three things now. Now, in the original creation, the first time when the human form was taken, and it was as simple and pure as the Supreme Soul, but only that this form was there, the idea of separation was there. If the direction of flow was inwards, immediately we have realized this similarity with the essence, and the life would have ended there. There was no need for any further life down the hierarchy. You will not come down. Right? Now, what happened? In the flow was not inwards. The flow was outwards. When the flow was outwards into the creation, again, God created the creation to help you go back to Him. Now, rather than utilize the creation for that particular purpose, you actually started enjoying the objects of creation in the first place. Now, the entire enjoyment, the samskaras that you developed because of the enjoyment of the objects of creation, now became the seed for the second life. So, in the second life, you had two things. One, you had to get rid of the fruits of that particular seed that you got because of the first enjoyment in the first life. And secondly, you have a second chance to realize your essence in tune with God. Both are possible. It's like second chance. Right? When somebody gets out in cricket, first ball, you will give a second chance. Okay, Pavam, Pavam. So let him have one more chance to play. ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ? ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ಟನ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಔಟ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ. We generally give no second chance. So second chance is like the final chance. It's like an additional benefit given to you. But so in the second life, you hardly had very few samskaras that came from the first life. Because prior to the first life, there are no samskara only. So in the second life, very little samskaras, and you have to just get rid of it and then realize your essence as being similar to God. That's all. If you miss the second chance, then you are in a downward trajectory. So suppose rather than losing that particular set of samskaras in the second life, you again enjoy the creation, objects of creation. You create more samskaras. Now you add samskaras to the first life samskaras. Then you do the same thing again and again. Every life you come in and then you add more and more samskaras. You develop an entire gamut of samskaras. And now the samskaras have become so much that you can think of not losing the entire set of samskaras, only part of it, small part of it, and you say that, okay, I'll come and lose this particular set of samskaras in this life. Next life, I'll like to take care of the rest of them. It's like you have a small loan, you can clear it off in once. If you have a very big loan, you make EMIs. That's what the soul is doing, EMI, with every life. That's all the soul is doing. Now, while you pay the EMI, the interest is still growing. Right? Likewise, while you try to get rid of particular set of samskaras, the samskara is still growing. So if you understand the concept of EMI, you will know how much you are actually stuck as far as the samskaras are concerned. So on one hand, you are trying to get rid of the samskaras, but on the other hand, it is also growing by time. So best example is EMI.
The amount of effort we are putting to remove the samskara and the amount what is creating is imbalance.
Correct. So if you take a mortgage, in the first 5 years, you hardly make any payment to the principal. Most of the money that you actually pay goes towards interest in the first 5 years. It's only after the 6th year, some amount of money, substantial money, starts going to reducing the principal. Does it make sense? That's exactly what happens in the samskaras. That's why it's a very long drawn process just to get liberation. Forget about going to the essence. Just to get liberation. Liberation is just shedding one layer, not all the layers, just shedding one layer that I am not the body. Just to shed this one idea, it takes n number of lives. Like to pay the EMIs of a 10-year or 15-year loan, it takes so many years. By the time you actually get rid of the loan, it takes so many years. Even to get rid of the loan substantially, you can just say even 25%, it takes 7 years. Because bulk of the money would have gone to the interest. That is why the journey in the Pinda Pradesh is the slowest. Because the journey in the Pinda Pradesh, you are actually paying more and more interest. When you come into 6 point and above, you are now paying more and more principal. So the journey happens pretty fast. The loan actually starts substantially reducing at a very fast rate. Does it make sense? That's exactly how the journey is. So the last payment that you make, after which you are free, is your original existence without the loan. Remember, before you actually started to take the loan, you were there in existence without any loan. Right? You were there before the samskaras started to be formed, the loan started to be formed. Before you took the loan, you were in existence. That is your original existence. Now, Priya sister has gone to look at the home loan agreement. How much EMI is left now? ಆಯ್ತು. ಗುರುಪ್ರಸಾದ್ ಅಂತೂ ಯಾವ ಲೋನು ಬೇಡ ಏನು ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ಅವನು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಸದ್ಯ ಮರ ಇದು ಯಾವ್ದು ಲೋನ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಕೊಂತಾರೆ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ. ಏನು ಗುರುಪ್ರಸಾದ್, ನೀವು ವಿಡಿಯೋನು ಆನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಲ್ಲ ಇವತ್ತು?
ಸರ್ ಅದು ಏನೋ ಎರರ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಸರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ.
ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಎರರ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಕಣಯ್ಯ ನಿನ್ಗೆ. ಗುರುಪ್ರಸಾದ್ಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬುಕ್ ರೆಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಎರರ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅವ್ನ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಚಾಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಎರರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವ ಎರರ್ ಆಗತ್ತೋ ನಿಂಗೆ?
ಸರ್ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ.
ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣ, ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ಒಂದು ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅವ್ನು ನನಗೆ ಬಂಡಲ್ ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ IT ಹುಡುಗರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆಯ್ತಾ, ನಾ ಯಾರ ಕೈಲಿ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಿನ್ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ನ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೋದು ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ.
ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ.
ಸೊ ಇದು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ ಪಿಂಡ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಟೈಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮೆನಿ ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಯುವರ್ ಹೋಮ್ ಲೋನ್ ಆರ್ ಎನಿ ಲೋನ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಟೇಕ್, ಯು ಪೇ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್. The second part of the loan payment is when you actually start paying more and more for the principal. When you have paid off both the interest and the principal, the interest is your body, the principal is your mind. When you have got rid of both the interest and principal, you are free from both interest and principal. You are a free man. That is your state of self-realization. what you were prior to actually taking on the loan and its interest, the principal and the interest. So the principal is your mind region, the interest is your Pind Pradesh. But even after that, now you might question, why did I take the loan in the first place? Why did you take the loan? To build something, to buy something. That's why you took the loan. You did not take without a reason, no? You had something to in mind. Likewise, you took the body and the mind for a particular purpose. And when you can recognize that particular purpose and work towards it without the need for the loan, then the ultimate journey is started. As of now, the journey is in the realm of the interest and the principle only. Simple. Now, each one has different ways of paying the loan. Some people want to pay off the loan very early. Some people want to take their own time. Some people say that there are a lot of tax deduction. Why unnecessarily pay the loan early? You keep it for 25 years. You will have some tax breaks on the home loan. Why not keep it? So there are multiple factors to take into consideration, right? If you were to say to Gopal Krishna or Yashas that you cannot go for too much of mountain hiking, too much of mountain bike riding and all, when you start going towards the center, they will say, let me just do all these things and then I'll come to the center. Wait, I'll take my time. But if Praveen is not interested in mountain hiking or biking, he will say, I'll come to the center very fast. Wait, please take me now. Right? And unfortunately, Priya's sister again has gone off into the virtual mode where the power has gone. The only thing I'm now looking at Priya's sister is when she's going to light the candle in the PG. I think today also the power gone. Is it raining?
I don't know what happened, but it is not raining. I guess. Yeah.
No, it's all right. Don't worry. Power can go without the rain also. But rain actually increases the chance of power going by manifold. Okay. Gopal Krishna, ಏನಪ್ಪ ಹಾಯ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆಯಾ?
So, with removing with liberation, we actually remove the attachment from the human body with the form, any form. But we might also have an attachment with some other form, not only human. But
Like form what? Which form? See, every attachment to any other form is based on your attachment to the human form. The basis for attachment to other forms is your attachment to your own form. If that attachment to your own form is removed, then the attachment to every other form outside is also simultaneously removed.
okay, but say for example, I was a cat in previous lives for a long time. I was attached to being a cat. Now I have become a human. So there's little bit of human attachment, but there is a lot of cat attachment, so to say.
Again, this fundamental attachment to the human form is what maintains that attachment to the cat form also. The basis is the same. So when the attachment to the current form is removed, attachment to all the forms before is also removed simultaneously. That is what happens. That's why I said the journey within the microcosm is the journey in the macrocosm also. If you have attachment to the form here, you will have attachment to the form everywhere else. Because what is there inside is what is projected outside. So what is there inside? Our attachment to our form. That is inside. Now that is projected out to every other thing that we see. So if we are attached to our own form, we are also attached to the other forms outside. When we get detached from our own form, we also automatically get detached from the outside form. It's like a mirror image. so to say. Now, it doesn't matter how many forms or what kind of forms you have taken in the past life. That doesn't matter. The attachment to the form is vividly felt in the current life, whatever life you have taken. This ability to detach from the current form is what is given to human beings as a special thing. And that is what you utilize for your journey. Animals do not have that capacity. That's the special thing given to humans only. Animals don't have that capacity to be able to move away from their form. Now again, when you come to the mind region, what are you getting away from in the journey of the mind region? You are getting away from the ideas that you have put into the mind region. Mind itself has no form. Does mind have a form? What kind of form does it take? It's like water. Water itself has no form, but it takes the form of the container that you put the water into. But water itself has no form. Likewise, the mind itself has no form, but it takes the shape of the form that you actually put it into. That's exactly what happens. Otherwise, what does the mind contain? What does the water contain? Water contains water molecules. That's all. What does the mind contain? Mind contains the things that we have put into the mind. That's all it is. All the thoughts and the samskaras are contained. So, in the journey of the mind region, we are no longer moving away from the form of the mind. We are moving away from the content of the mind, not the form of the mind. Mind itself has no form. So, we are moving away from the content of the mind. What is the content of the mind? Various ideations, non-individual ideations. So, what we call as common ideations, that I am an Indian, I belong to this particular religion. The common identity that we form with the rest of the group, that is the thing that is there in the mind region. In the Pinda Pradesh, you don't have that kind of a thing. Here, you look at it as an individual. There, you look at the individual as part of a bigger group. So, I am a Kannadiga. In other words, you are now no longer one person, but you are part of a group of Kannadigas. I am a Kannadiga. When you say that, you are part of a group of Kannadigas. I am an Indian means you are part of a group called as Indians. So you actually get attached. The individuality now gets attached to something larger group, common group. Those are the ideas that predominate in the mind region, and you gradually start getting away from those ideas also. That is what happens in the mind region. Now, when the mind is kind of emptied, or you detach away from all these ideas of the mind, then the mind is said to be in the most purified state. That is at the 12th point. You got rid of all various levels of identification, outside identification, and your identification with the mind itself. Everything is now gone. When each of these things are now gone, then you exist as your original existence. That is your soul, the true self, which is beyond all the ideations at the level of the body and the mind, and the various objects of creation with which you have interacted to create the samskaras. Now remember, for samskaras to form, there should be creation and objects of creation, and you should have the body and the mind. If the body and the mind does not have the capacity to interact with the objects of creation, there is no question of samskara formation. So in sleep, can you form samskaras? Let me check tonight and then I'll answer you tomorrow morning after the sleep is over.
Not exactly, because conscious mind is what is more responsible for creation of samskara.
Can you lose samskaras in sleep?
Yeah, sometimes.
If creation, if you are able to lose samskaras in sleep, why not create samskaras in sleep also? Both go together, no? How can you say that one can be done, other cannot be done?
That's what I said sometimes.
Even sometimes you should be able to create.
If there is a
Yeah,
samskara that
if the seed is sown, then yeah, that will manifest in sleep sometimes.
So what is the seed for the dreams then?
Uh, the thinking what we do in the conscious mind goes back as a seed in the subconscious, which grows in subconscious to form a samskara.
Why only the thinking? Why not emotions?
It,
Why not
it can
experiences?
be, yeah,
Everything.
it can be anything. So it can be good, it can be bad, but anything which goes back there,
We are not talking about good, bad. We are talking about the thought, emotion,
anything. So
and
I'm saying,
experience. All the three
yeah,
put together,
yeah. When I
right?
say good, bad, some feelings, sometimes people say happy, sad, so it can be anything.
Anyway, so the thing is, if you can lose samskaras in dream, you can also create samskaras in dream. Why is it not possible? If you can create samskaras during wake time, you can also lose samskaras during waking time. You had a nightmare.
Problem is,
You had a
yeah,
nightmare during the
pro-
dream. You had a very bad
yeah.
dream. You had a very bad dream in sleep. Okay. Now you get attached to the bad dream. Don't you think you have created the samskara in a dream, in a sleep? You might not have done it consciously, but the samskaras have actually come together to coalesce to give you that dreadful experience. There are a lot of people when they come to the 30s and the 40s, many people have heard from many people that they dream that they have not passed their exam. They dream that they have not got a job. All these things will come. I'm giving you a clue even now only that in the next 10 to 15 years, our Praveen will report all these dreams.
Why
Yashas,
that comes after a certain time?
Yashas also will report that. Gopal Krishna will report in the next 10 to 20 years. Priya sister also will report certain apriya dreams, not so happy dreams. Now that's a very interesting phenomenon. Most of us have it. Most of us get it.
No,
Many
no,
people have
why
it.
not in the early? Why not in the early stage? Why it comes in the later stage?
That is for you to now work out. Human beings are very good in doing one thing, in asking the why question. No, we don't want to take the trouble of pondering on it and trying to work out. We want the ready-made answers. The whole point of spiritual journey is to be able to grasp all these things. How does things work in nature? How can we actually make utilization of that in our journey? That's the whole point of going through all these things.
Brother,
Guru
since
Prasad,
just this point came, just one thing on that. Some people will be losing their minds, right? They don't have the active consciousness. They can't think like we do. They are completely lost. Like mad means I'm directly speaking like mad people. What about them? In them, it is conscious. Why do that happen? It is subconscious mind which makes that happen, or it is conscious mind?
the subconscious mind is overpowering the conscious mind. When the subconscious mind becomes so active that it does not allow the conscious mind to function, then you call that as an illness. Depending on the symptoms, you give different names. But essentially, it's the subconscious mind which is firing away without allowing the conscious mind to organize and do things in a one particular goal directed way.
So, do you mean to say more samskaras are formed in that person?
Correct. Correct. Any mentally ill patients actually form more and more samskaras. The rate of formation of samskaras in a mentally ill person is higher than normal person. The rate of formation of samskaras in a normal person is higher compared to a spiritual person. So if you were to look at three different categories, a spiritual person, normal person, and a mentally ill person. As we move from spirituality towards mentally ill state, the rate of samskar formation goes on increasing, and the normal person falls somewhere in between. Okay, so the normal person has the freedom to go in this direction also, in this direction also. If they start leading life in such a way that they create more and more samskaras, they actually start falling mentally ill. If they start leading life in such a way they actually start losing samskaras, they become more and more spiritual. That's all.
So the next question here is, you once said me, when we proceed spiritually, there will be one time when even we may start having some symptoms.
What symptoms?
Uh, Means we'll have some disturbance in mind or something. You said, I don't remember it exactly. It was very long back, you said. So, like we proceed, means like advance very much our journey. So there will be so many things which we need to watch out for.
See, something like this. If you are driving a cycle, if you are going too fast, there is a risk of fall. If you are going too slow, there is a risk of fall. If you are moderate, then you are more likely to be on a good balance. So what generally happens is when the rate of samskara formation is too high, as with mental illness, there is an imbalance. When the rate of samskara formation goes down substantially, even one single thought can actually occupy the entire space of the vacuum. So that can actually appear to be too big. One small issue can actually appear the entire mental space. One single thought. So there again, it can create an appearance of imbalance. See, most people try to balance the cycle at a certain speed. It's that much easier. Once you cross a certain limit or once you come down the speed beyond a certain limit, in both directions, it is difficult to balance the cycle. Likewise, when we are progressing at a very high rate of samskara formation, there is a high risk of imbalance in the mind. When we are progressing with a very slow rate of samskara formation, there again there is a possibility of imbalance in the mind. When I say imbalance in the mind, like you fall from the cycle, the soul will leave the body and go. It's done. It's got this job done substantially. Why would it want to stay in the body? So so there is a certain rate of samskara formation which has to be kind of be used. If not your own samskara, somebody else's samskaras. That's how masters also do their work. After they have actually finished their samskaras in terms of bhoga or cleaning, they actually start taking the samskaras of the abhyasis and start working on them. And they utilize it for the purpose of their existence here on earth. That's one of the ways masters also does the work for an abhyasi. They take on the samskaras of the abhyasi. Does it make sense? Otherwise, the soul will leave the body because it finished most of its work done here. Why would it want to stay in the body? It will just exit. So that risk is there when we come between the 12th and the 13th point. There's something called as Brahmarandra. And the soul immediately remembers, this is where I actually entered this body. So now I want to exit it. So the moment it comes near the Brahmananda, it recalls, I came in this way only, now let me exit the body. And there again, the master has to come and protect you so that if the soul is allowed to exit the Brahmananda, there is no question of you journeying into the central region in this life. So the master comes and protects you, makes you take a detour like a bypass. You are bypassing Bidadi and Ramnagar and going in the bypass towards Mysore. So you take a bypass and then you enter into the central region. Without the bypass, this was one of the Lalaji's invention that you actually bypass. See now, Guru Prasad want to bypass us. He's saying, can I leave now? He's bypassing. Okay, Guru Prasad, you can bypass.
Okay, thank you, sir.
ಆಯ್ತು ಸರಿನಾ ಸರಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಹಾಕ್ತೀನಿ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಡ್ರಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಯಾವ ಯಾವ ಯೋಚನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಳುಗೋಗಿ ಯಾವ ಯಾವ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಆ ಯೋಚನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಆಲ್ ದ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ದಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪಾಂಡರಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ and if you still have some questions come back with those questions later on in the next session ಸರಿನಾ ಸೊ ಯಶಸ್ತು ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಚಾರ್ಜರ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಚಕ್ 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 ಅಂತ ಸೊ ಪಾಪ ಪ್ರಿಯಾ ಸಿಸ್ಟರ್ದು ದ ಪವರ್ ಡಿಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಕಮ್ ಅಟ್ ಆಲ್ while we are talking about the power rushing out from the central region from the center from the latent motion it looks like the power is gushing out from the PG there. It is not gushing into the PG, it is gushing out of the PG. So looks like there are quite a frequent power cuts, I think, in that area where you are living. Or is it only recently? It's gone more.
Nowadays it is happening more generally when it is raining at that time. Like,
It is your testing your resolve. The BESCOM is testing your resolve to attend the book reading sessions. See, nature is testing through BESCOM your resolve to attend the sessions and see what you can get out of the sessions. Right? So you are also resolutely trying to work with nature. That no matter what are the challenges, I'll make sure that I'll complete this process. So good. So you can borrow some power from Gopal Krishna because it's always bright light on behind his head. Some power is there. You can borrow that from him. Or you can borrow from the power that Dheeraj has, which he is using for ironing. Sorry. Ayatri. So please listen to this recording again because there are a lot of points that we have discussed, which will definitely be required as we go forward. ಆಯ್ತಾ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಬನ್ರಿ ಅದು ಓಕೆ ಗುಡ್ ನೈಟ್ ದೆನ್ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಓಕೆ ನಮಸ್ತೆ
Thank you.